One sentence, that's all it took. One sentence and my body shut down completely, entirely. I'm so sorry you have incurable cancer. And I didn't hear another word. I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk, my body was totally incapacitated. It wasn't till I don't know how much longer that I was jolted back to reality when I heard my doctor say to my husband, I'll get you a wheelchair so that you can wheel Jenny to the car. Now, I didn't know it then, but this turned out to be the premise for my healing. If those words could have that immediate effect on my body, maybe words had created cancer within my body. That was way back in December 2012, and in my journey back to healing, I have uncovered 6 steps to healing, which I call Heal-U. And those 6 steps, the first one, the H is for hope. And so I got this diagnosis, and like anybody with a cancer diagnosis, I went into complete fear. In fact, it was really terror. I shook like a leaf from sun up to sundown. And it was the 10th morning I woke really early in the morning, and it was that time between sleeping and waking when a thought came into my head, and it said, you are healed. And what happened was my body just completely let go. The relief was palpable throughout. What I didn't realize then, that often when we're faced a life and death situation, our intuitive part of our brain can override our thinking, logical part of our brain. And that's what I believed happened in that moment. So my first step to healing is to have hope, and then turn that hope into belief. And so now the word had got round in the little town that I was living in, the South Island at that time. And a friend came to visit me, and she said, I know someone who's just had what you've had, but they've had their first chemo and they've died. And of course my body went straight into fear again. But actually she did me a big favour, because she helped me uncover my second step to healing, the E, encouragement and support. So from that moment on, I made a decision to only allow myself to be surrounded with people who would encourage me and support me and believe they could heal. So I got this far, and I didn't really know what I was going to do next. So I went into meditation, because I was a meditator, and I was guided to go into my tumour, and my tumour actually spoke to me. It said, you look good, you feel great, because I did. I had no symptoms except this lump that had begun protruding from my lower abdomen. But what it said to me is, we're coming from the inside out. You are out of alignment with your soul. So we're doing this to get your notice. And so that's my third step to healing. Aware. Become aware of your inner knowing. So I got this far, and then I decided to ring up a friend and asked her if she could come and sit with me and put that intent out, that prayer, whatever you want to call it, to be led to the root cause. And once again, I went into meditation with my friend's guidance, and I got the shock of my life when I was led to a memory. And the power of this memory was that I uncovered 2 beliefs I'd taken on at the time of that trauma. And the first belief was I wasn't good enough, and it must have been my fault. Now, I'd suffered emotional, physical, and sexual abuse in my childhood. And so because of those 2 beliefs, I'd become a high achiever, both in sport, academically, and a chronic people pleaser. I disconnected from my soul, my spirit. I didn't know who I was. And of course, in all of that, I was working in a very busy legal office. I was a legal executive, and 10 years before my diagnosis, I burnt out. But no wonder, because I was living continually from that place of I wasn't good enough and it must have been my fault. So my sympathetic nervous system was always activated. I was running and stressed all the time. And it was interesting after my diagnosis that I was actually hooked up to a machine to monitor how often my body went into parasympathetic nervous state. And I was put on a massage table, had headphones on my head, beautiful music playing, a lovely duvet wrapped around me. And for 15 minutes, when I thought I was totally relaxed, not once was my parasympathetic nervous system activated. So really, I was just a disaster waiting to happen. Never did my body get the chance to go into that place of rest and restore. So that is my fourth step to healing, to be led to the root cause of what's created the disease within the body. And my next step for the heal-u is the dash, and that is to surrender. So a lot of people who get a diagnosis of cancer believe that they've got to be positive. But as human beings, we're not geared up to be positive all the time. It's not a reality. But what we need to do is to surrender to whatever emotions arise for us. And when we actually feel those emotions in our body and process them correctly, then they can move through our body. In my research, what I uncovered was that every time we suppress an emotion, we physically store that in our cells. And this is based on the work of Dr. Candice Pert, who is a cellular biologist and wrote the book, Molecules of Emotion. Because she posed this question to herself. So if someone has liver cancer today, in 9 months' time, they will have completely new cells because the whole liver has regenerated. Why then have they still got liver cancer in 9 months' time? And what she discovered was that it is the cellular memory that gets passed on from cell to cell. So in the lead to the root cause process, what we're doing is accessing that memory, releasing it, and then the cell regenerates without that stored emotion and the suppressed emotion. And so also in my research with another wonderful cellular biologist, Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he wrote the book Biology of Belief. And it was when I read in the book that he was looking at his petri dish in his laboratory, and what he noticed is that it is the perception of the perception of the environment that controls a cell. Now, in human terms, perceptions are beliefs. So it is beliefs that actually change our cells. So the minute that I had that thought in my head and believed that I was healed was the minute my cells started matching that belief. So we surrender into any emotions that come up, allow them to move through the body, and we also surrender into what is. So part of it is accepting where we are at right now with that cancer diagnosis. And then in the acceptance and the surrendering, we can then get to where our intent or prayer is of healing. And the sixth step to healing is the U, which stands for Unleash Your Plan. And my plan was eating healthily, Qigong, yoga when I could, and at times I was so ill that I would just visualize doing the Qigong. Surrounding myself with people who believed I could heal, getting out into nature as much as possible, and most importantly, uncovering those beliefs and releasing the suppressed emotion. I also embraced some of medical treatment. I had major surgery to remove a tumour, or one of my tumours, which was the size of a melon. And I also had a third of the chemotherapy that I was told would just give me a few more months to live. So part of that process was learning to trust my intuition, become aware of my inner knowing of what I actually needed to heal myself. And so then my intuition guided me to actually move up to Mount Maunganui. So I had to change my medical team from the South Island up to the North Island. And on my first appointment with my gynecologist up here, he said to me, we need to get some blood tests done for you. And I was really surprised because I'd chosen not to have any more blood tests done, because it evoked a lot of fear in me, and I was told the only answer would be more chemotherapy, and I've made a decision not to do any more chemotherapy. So I said to him, no, I thought it would have been in my notes, but I've chosen not to have any more blood tests. And he said to me, no, I need to know where you're at. We need to have more blood tests. And I very politely once again said, no, I don't want any more blood tests. And ignoring me, he leaned over, reached out the laboratory form, began filling it out, popped it down on his desk, and said to me, no, I need you to go and get these blood tests. Now, the anger was rising up inside of me. He was triggering old wounds when no it didn't mean no. I walked out of his surgery. I sat with that form for 2 days, and then angrily I thought, I'm going to show him. I'm going to go and get these blood tests and show that I'm okay. Away I went to get the blood tests, and I never heard anything for 10 days. And then the phone rang, and it was my new GP who I had not yet met. She said to me, has anybody given you your blood results? And I said, no, they hadn't. Then there was silence on the phone. And then she said, oh, I'm sorry to tell you, your cancer markers have shot right back up again. You will need to go and make an appointment with your oncologist. And then she popped the phone down and left me with this news. 5 minutes later, the phone rang again. And she said to me, look, I'm here if you need someone to talk to. So I made an appointment to go and speak to her. And she said, as she looked down at my form and my occupation that I'd filled in as intuitive healer, she said, why do you think that you've got these cancer markers risen up again? I said, because I haven't finished my healing. She said, yes, I think that's true. And she gave me someone that I could go to continue my healing. On I went to see the oncologist, and he said to me, look, we need to start chemo straight away. I asked him to give me 3 months and I would come back. And 3 months later, I went back after I'd done more healing, and to his surprise, but not to mine, my cancer markers had dropped right back down again. And he said to me, well, I don't know how this has happened, but that is great news. He said, after this length of time, only a minute amount of women are still alive from the diagnosis that you were given. And I said to him, in a minute amount? Why wasn't I told that? I was told none. And he replied, we don't like to give people false hope. So if there's anything that you could get out of this talk today, is to take back your power and always listen to your own inner knowing. Your body is the barometer to your soul and has all the answers. Thank you.